All good to go?
Yep.
Okay. This is Helena Snyder, and this is a private investigator subcommittee meeting. Today is November 18th, 2025. It is 11:04 a.m. And I think we need to do a roll call, is that correct?
Is
Thank you.
there an administrative announcement by any chance?
Oh, sure. Thank you. I apologize. According to the administrative announcement, this is a public meeting subject to the public meeting law, and it will be recorded. Deliberation of issues will only be conducted by private security, private investigators, policy committee members unless permitted by the chair. Individuals who engage in disruptive behavior that impedes official business will be asked to stop being disruptive or leave the meeting. Additional measures may be taken to have disruptive individuals removed if their continued presence poses a safety risk to the other persons in the room or makes it impossible to continue the meeting. So with that, roll call, please.
When I call on you, please state your name and who you represent for the record. We'll start with you, Chair Snyder.
Helena Snyder, Chair. I don't know what else. If I represent.
Yeah, they don't have specific.
Okay,
presentation.
wasn't sure.
I'm Broad. Would you like to introduce yourself? Yeah.
I'm sorry, James Odd, yeah.
And then online, we have member Ruwalt.
Cassandra Ruwalt, private investigator here.
Thank you. And now for staff introductions, Juan Lopez, Executive Assistant, DPSST. We can start with you, Jennifer.
Jennifer Howell, DPSST. Marie Atwood, DPSST. Crystal White, DPSST. Michelle Morrison, DPSST. And Susie Herring, DPSST.
And one time. Back to you, Chair.
All right, thank you. It looks like, I guess I don't know if we want to do any other type of introductions unless the roll call was acceptable to everybody. Okay, next on the agenda is Ronald Revel, and I'm going to turn it over to Michelle Morrison.
Thank you all for taking the time to be here today and for taking the time to review the material that was sent. We are here today to review Ronald Revel's application for a provisional private investigator license. We are trying to make a determination if Mr. Revel's license should be denied based on violation of the moral fitness requirement as outlined in OER 259-061-0020 and OER 259-061-0300. As noted, Mr. Revel has had prior private security certifications and licensures, but has never applied or been issued a private investigator licensure previously.
You can go through it's a little bit redundant, but you can go through the materials.
Okay.
The timeline there.
Okay,
For the
so,
record.
sorry, I wasn't quite sure where to start with that. So, moving on to materials, events, and conduct. So prior to the receipt of Mr. Revel's private investigator application, the department became aware on August 26, 2019, that Mr. Revel had been charged with crimes related to food stamp fraud, obtaining attempt, aid, or abet dispose of food stamp benefits in the Marion County Circuit Court. There were two charges, and they were felony allegations. At the time that the department received that information, Mr. Revel was an unarmed private security professional and also held an executive manager license. Mr. Revel has had various certifications and licenses through the department since March 6th of 2007. Any prior information related to his certifications and licensure would have likely been purged due to retention schedules. On August 30th, 2019, the department made note that the criminal charges had been located in the Marion County Circuit Court. They were case number 19 CR 24232. On December 12th, 2019, Mr. Revel was convicted of obtaining attempt, aid, or abet or dispose of food stamp benefits, reduced to a Class A misdemeanor after he submitted a no contest plea on December 12th of 2019. The other remaining charge was dismissed. Mr. Rybel was required to pay $19,591.31 in restitution and was placed on supervised probation for 24 months. The following day, December 19th, 2019, Mr. Rybel informed the department that he was surrendering his unarmed private security professional certification and his executive manager licensure. On August 28th, 2023, Mr. Rybel submitted a new application to the department for an unarmed private security professional, an unarmed instructor, and executive manager. Mr. Rybel informed the department that his legal issues had been resolved. The department discovered that the criminal case had been expunged after Mr. Rybel paid the full amount of $19,591.31 in restitution. However, the expungement was not inclusive of the Department of Human Services investigation. Because the department was aware of the conduct, regardless of the expunction, the department sought to obtain the Department of Human Services investigative material. A waiver was required. Mr. Rybel failed to provide the department with a waiver, and those applications were terminated for that failure to provide the waiver. After receipt of the department at some point in time received another application from Mr. Rybel. This application also included a private investigator provisional application. And that was on June 18th of 2024. On July 18th of 2025, the department, let me back up just a moment. The department did, with this most recent application, obtain a waiver from Mr. Rybel. We submitted the waiver to Department of Human Services. There was quite a delay in their response, but on July 18th, 2025, the Department of Human Services did provide the department with some investigative material, not their entire investigation, but investigative memos, which are included in your information packet. The Department of Human Services provided a prosecution request, and their findings were that Mr. Rybel intentionally, knowingly, and fraudulently failed to report his self-employment, security business, and income on multiple applications over a span of several years. On November 3rd, 2025, the department compliance team discussed Mr. Rybel's case. There was some reservation about the direction that we should go. And that led us to submit the material to the subcommittee for review and a direction. So some relevant circumstances for consideration. Mr. Rybel currently does not hold any certifications or licensures through the department. He has other certifications and licensures under review. He's applied for an executive manager license, an unarmed professional certification, and the provisional private investigator. And as you know, those two, the executive manager and unarmed professional, fall under a different rule set than the private investigator, and they would be a separate review.
If I may.
Yes, please.
Before we move on to page 4 of the documentation, I just wanted to give a brief overview of what you'll be talking about next. So as Michelle stated, this did come across to the team, the compliance team, and they review these discretionary cases to make a determination. So the majority of the time, those are handled already in-house, either by moving forward with a denial or revocation, or if it doesn't rise to the level, to an administrative closure, and then the individual was issued a license. But when there's any time that staff has the uncertainty of a case or maybe a lack of consensus among the compliance team, that is when it comes before this subcommittee. So you're looking at it as, you know, subject matter experts in this area and whether or not this individual should be eligible to hold a private investigator license. So you'll go through, as Michelle will start talking, we'll go through different sections of the rule that identify some of those discretionary misconducts, and that'll be open for discussion to identify if you found that when you reviewed the material. Also, we're required to reach out to the PI for input. And as you found today, we received information this morning, a letter from the individual. So that was forwarded on to you to review. And what we asked for from the PI is for them to provide any sort of mitigating information that they want to provide, mitigate the case that's being reviewed. So that'll be also asked upon you if you consider any mitigating or aggravating circumstances as you go through the different discretionary misconduct. After you make a determination whether you think that the department should take action or no action, it continues on through the process. That goes forward to the policy committee at their next scheduled meeting, which technically is today, but we will be at the next. It's an
That's kind of
hour or
wondering.
so, yeah, I know. It'll be at the next scheduled meeting and then on to the board too for final determination. The individual, if you guys do determine to take action on this application, the individual is given due process. So they would be in receipt of what's called a notice of intent and then have due process to request a hearing on the matter. They feel that they would like to do that. So I just wanted to kind of walk you through those steps just to make sure that you're clear as kind of what your role and responsibility is as a PI committee member. Okay. So included in your packet was the OAR reference of the rule, but we'll actually have Michelle start going through the action items. You are ready.
Okay,
And we'll start with number 1.
so on page 5 of the staff report, the first action item is going to be decision on lack of good character.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're going to start with number 1, which is we asked for a consensus
I'm
from
sorry.
the subcommittee to adopt or not adopt the staff report. So the reason a committee member would not adopt the staff report is if you didn't have enough information in the staff report to make a determination today. And if you do, then you would, by consensus, by the 3 of you, adopt the staff report and then we'll move forward.
Okay, so I need to ask for a motion amongst,
It's just a
Or
consensus.
just a consensus?
Actually,
Okay.
yeah, it's just a consensus, so nods of heads. I don't know that Cassandra's on screen, but if she might unmute herself.
Member Wolf,
Wrong button.
so with that, is there a consensus to adopt or not, but is there a consensus to adopt the staff report as the record upon which its recommendations are based?
I move to say yes, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I agree as well.
Okay.
So then with that, we need to identify the conduct that may have violated the established moral fitness standards, and that's, I think, where we're at.
Correct.
Okay.
And feel free to have as much discussion as you like during each of these sections, because it is kind of lengthy to go through each discretionary conduct and let Michelle describe the information that she'll need to capture, and feel free to ask her to repeat anything if you've identified something and you want to hear what she has captured before we move on to the next discretionary.
Thank you.
So are we in point to discuss, or?
Absolutely,
Okay.
yeah, well, the first one is, the lack of good character, or if you'd rather just broadly have a discussion before we get into that, that's fine as well.
Well, I kind of took his response. I don't feel like it helped his case much. There were attempts to minimize what, the investigative report cited. I mean, the investigation found definitively that, was adjudicated and confirms that he did, over a period of years, fraudulently act to obtain, benefits. And I mean, in his response, there was nothing that mitigated that. In fact, he dismissed it as a misunderstanding, even though that was demonstratively proved to be not accurate. And so I think right there, that clearly shows that, regarding moral character, that is not good moral character. And I guess the only other thing that it seems, he's conflating, the expungement of his conviction to, moral character. Those things are not mutually exclusive. Expungement of a conviction does not mean that he isn't meeting the regulation standard of having good character.
I agree. When I read his response this morning, saying that, again, like an expungement and it was just a misunderstanding. I just feel like during the whole process, during his surrender of his certifications, he had opportunities to disclose and give reasons why, and that just never happened throughout multiple years. So yeah, the good lack of good character, the response didn't help. I agree with that.
It almost seems like if he embraced the factual findings and said, yes, that was a mistake, I take full accountability, that would be, I think, a more nuanced discussion around, his character, because he's embracing his, I think it would just be a more nuanced discussion, but the fact that he's just, trying to reframe it as a misunderstanding despite the findings just seems like a very, dodgy way to approach it.
And I know that there was some discussion that he had been licensed previously and due to the records retention, they're most likely gone. But do we have any knowledge if under any of those other licensings, if there were any other complaints or issues?
Yes, there was at some point in time a civil penalty issued to him. I don't recall exactly what that was for, but it was related to his private security certification. It was for some sort of violation of certification.
Employing individuals without certification. Okay. The other question I have was, are we aware or do we have any knowledge as to what he, I guess, was doing in the past 16 months from when the original applications came in for both private security as well as his provisional PI license? Every red flag goes up in my head, wondering if he's, and of course with the employing of unlicensed security, is he continuing to perform the same type of work and we don't know about it? I get that everything is going off in my head, and I don't know if we know what he's been doing for employment.
He is Michelle Morrison, for the record. Mr. Abel owns his own business. He's continued to own the same business that is outlined in the Department of Human Services investigation. His family is involved in the business, and it is also my understanding that the department has received some information that he has extended his business to the state of Utah. He has continued to either run his private security business in this state and or in another state.
Are we
So
aware?
Sorry.
Sorry.
Can we confirm that he is still operating his current business in the state of Oregon without a license.
To the best of my knowledge, his wife, is co-owner of the business, as well as one of his sons that is, in our database.
I was gonna ask if we had checked with Utah at all, or if he's the one that has applied for the licensure there, or if it was,
I am not sure if he has obtained a licensure there. My understanding, was that we had just received information that he was there possibly setting up a business, so I'm not sure the status of that.
I do concur with the other committee members' comments regarding character and kind of basically Mr. Rival stating, even just for the past few years, he's been clean. To me, the past few years, I guess, is concerning in and of itself. And with the history of having a civil penalty under his private security certification is also of concern to me as well.
Yeah, and I mean, it almost feels like there'd be more of a debate, even though there's clear indication of lack of accountability in the investigation material and the material that was presented. His response just, I feel like, really pushes the narrative of a lack of accountability, despite the, I mean, it's almost slapshot. I mean, the policy he cites, it's not even the right one. You know, saying that paying his restitution somehow changed the nature of the circumstances where he was, you know, convicted and then expunged. His characterization of the entire events just is totally counter to the other evidence that's provided.
Susie Hearing for the record. So what I'm hearing from the subcommittee members is that all three of you had identified that the conduct did involve lack of good character. Is that a fair statement?
I'll blame
Yes.
us under. I say yes to, yes.
Yes.
Okay. Are you comfortable, Chair, moving on to B, dishonesty? Having discussion about that?
Sure. So dishonesty, lack of honesty includes but is not limited to untruthfulness, dishonesty by admission or omission, deception, misrepresentation, or falsification. Is there any identified conduct that did or did not involve dishonesty?
I think his initial reporting or lack of reporting his income to DHS would have been dishonest for multiple years.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like that fact demonstrates a lack of honesty.
Elena Snyder for the record too, and based upon the information presented, one thing that caught my information was he, in 2019, well, yes, exactly. Back at looking at the information is when he voluntarily surrendered. I don't know if it was, if the information was presented to the department as to why. If he didn't present why, to me, that is somewhat dishonest as well. That was something I wasn't 100% sure on either.
We just received an email from him. Let's see if we have that.
Yeah, that was, I didn't see anything in the supporting information, so I wasn't sure.
Michelle Morrison, for the record, according to our case notes on December 13th, 2009, there's just a notation that we received a surrender form. So that could have likely just been, it looks like there was a prior phone call, an inquiry about surrendering his certifications. And so we likely could have sent him a surrender form, which is just a basic form that there's really no information as to why they're surrendering. It's just a formality, really.
Okay.
And I think again, his response today, you know, he mischaracterizes the fraud as a mistake, just a misunderstanding. And again, that's not true based on the evidence and the judicial findings regarding that. So I would call that dishonest.
So it sounds as a consensus that there was identified conduct involving dishonesty. Is that an accurate assessment from our group?
I would say yes.
Yes.
And moving on to C, getting the hang of this. Failure to strive for justice. Failing to strive for justice includes but is not limited to unjust treatment or being partial, unfair, or discriminatory. Was there any identified conduct that did or did not involve failure to strive for justice?
I didn't find anything that would explicitly meet those standards.
I would agree. I didn't necessarily find anything for that, because I guess he paid his restitution, so there was justice served in that instance. Yeah.
Helena Snyder, for the record, I would agree with that as well, and I would also agree in the idea that he did submit the waiver form upon request. Although I think it took the second time around to go ahead and do that, but he did submit to that. So I guess, so as a consensus, it appears that there was no conduct identified that involved failure to strive for justice. Is that inaccurate? It almost seems contradictory, but I think I said that correctly.
I would agree with that.
Yes, I agree also.
Okay. Moving on to D, lack of public trust. Failure to maintain public trust and confidence includes, but is not limited to, acting in an unlawful manner or not adhering to industry standards. Identified conduct that did or did not involve lack of public trust.
Say being found to defraud a government agency would be meeting those standards as stated. There's no denying that there was a judicial finding that he did those things. And so I would say yes, for sure.
I agree. I say, defrauding a public entity would lack public trust. I know that he's trying to minimize it, saying that he did a no contest plea in his response this morning, not out of guilt. So I just feel like that's just not trustworthy in that sense either.
That's a good point.
I agree as well, Lena Snyder, for the record. At the same time, I believe there's a pattern that exists, given that there was even issues with his private security licensure in the past. The public trust, there is a lack of public trust there. So with that, it appears there is a consensus that he did, or there did involve lack of public trust failure to maintain public trust in that regard. Is that a correct assessment?
I would agree, yes.
Yes.
All right. E, lack of respect for the laws of the state or nation. Lack of respect for the laws of the state and nation includes behavior which leads to an arrest or conviction within a 10-year period prior to application or during licensure. The identified conduct did or did not involve lack of respect for the laws of the state or nation, or what identified conduct, I should say, did or did not involve lack of respect for the laws of this state or nation.
I mean, I would say he clearly had criminal charges pressed against him, and there is a plea deal. So I would say that would lack of respect for the state laws.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, holiness cider for the record, too. I guess acknowledgement, with the plea deal, I guess, kind of it ensures the understanding that something was violated versus utilizing the justice system in and of itself in an attempt to have it go one way or the other. A plea is an admission of guilt in and of itself. To me, that shows a lack of respect.
Yeah, and to further on that, his characterization of that plea was that it was a question of resources, whether or not he wanted to continue fighting the charge, or if it would just be more cost effective to take the civil penalty. That right there shows a rationale of disregard for his own accountability in the circumstance, and trying to characterize it as a you know, trying to take the least loss in the circumstance.
So based upon our discussion, it appears that we identified conduct that did involve lack of respect for the laws of this state or nation. Is that accurate?
I would concur.
Yes.
All right. So then by discussion and consensus, the subcommittee must identify and consider mitigating and aggravating circumstances. Are there any additional mitigating or aggravating circumstances that we have not already discussed that we should bring to the table?
Seems like there was lots of opportunity to present mitigating circumstances, especially around the nature of his fraud. And I mean, I feel like the response this morning was an attempt, but it was a fairly hollow attempt, and then the other opportunities that the program presented to him to provide additional mitigating information. Kind of seems like he waited till the last minute to do that, which doesn't bode well, I think, for having a well-reasoned and substantiated mitigating circumstance.
I agree. Throughout his timeline, I feel like he had every opportunity to disclose information. And even in his response this morning, he says it's easily refutable, through tax statements. So why wasn't that given back when he was initially charged with this crime? Because if he can contest that back then versus now, why wouldn't that have been done?
Oh, and I think looking back, he had the opportunity back in 2023 to start presenting mitigating information, and that didn't happen. So failure to cooperate.
Helena Snyder for the record too. At the same time, I found it interesting that until Mr. Ribel was presented the idea that it was going to come to us as a committee is when things started happening. And yeah, I mean, that's, why didn't it start, as you both had mentioned too previously, why did it have to come to the next level up in order to get a response? Is there anything, any additional mitigating or aggravating circumstances before I move on to number 4 from either one of you?
I don't have anything additional.
I don't have anything
Sure.
else.
Sorry, Michelle Morrison for the record. So between the three of you, your comments, sounded more aggravating to the circumstances.
Mitigating or aggravating, I guess either one. I don't know if they have to be specified individually or on either side. Or is it just in a whole in and of itself?
We try, as we prepare the memo for the
Mhm.
policy committee, we do try to state what the subcommittee identified as aggravating versus mitigating.
Mitigating, okay. So as a committee, do we agree that they're aggravating circumstances and or mitigating circumstances with what we've discussed?
I would say the attempt at mitigation failed, so would it be aggravating at that point? Yeah.
Yeah, I would say his attempt at mitigating kind of aggravated the circumstances.
Okay. Then yes, I would agree. Thank you for the clarification. So moving on to number 4, by vote, the subcommittee finds Rival's conduct either does or does not rise to the level to warrant the denial of his license and therefore recommends to the Private Security Investigator Policy Committee that the certification either be denied or not be denied. So do we each need to vote or can it be a consensus?
This is a vote,
This is a
so
vote,
I,
okay.
as chair, call for the vote.
Okay. Understood. So I need to call for a vote and I'm assuming we'll do it by each member. Is that
So one of the members would
make a motion?
make a motion. And then if there is a second, then we can move to the vote of all 3 members.
Thank you. Understood. So do I have a motion? Or if Rivals, go ahead.
I'll motion for him to be denied. I think there's just too much lack of disclosing throughout the years and accountability.
Second that motion.
Thank you. Absolutely.
Okay, I will take a quick roll call here. Chair Helena,
Aye.
Chair Odd,
Aye.
and member Ruwalt. Did I say that correctly? Sorry.
Yes, aye.
All right, motion passes.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is agency update. And I believe I'm going to turn that over to Susan.
Oh, wonderful. Not a lot to share with you all today. I had mentioned before you had walked in, Helena, and actually I don't even quite sure if Sandra was on. Did she hear us talking earlier by chance?
No, we
Okay,
wouldn't.
so what's important that I wanted to share today is still our vacancies that we have on this committee and the policy committee. So we still have 1 vacancy for an Oregon State Board recommendation of an investigator on the policy committee. And what that truly means is someone can apply as being a private investigator on the policy committee. There's 2 positions. Helena holds 1. And then those that apply for the second position, those applications are then transferred over to the Oregon State Bar, and they review them at their next board meeting and make a recommendation back to the department for that position, and then it goes affirmed with our board as well. And then this committee, subcommittee, excuse me, has both representatives from the policy committee plus 3 additional members. So right now we're missing 2 members technically because we're missing the one from the policy committee and then the second being the other investigator. So if any of you have any way of getting the word out and sharing that, Juan does a great job of sending that out on our Gov Delivery. I think we put that on our Facebook page as well. But it has been a hard time trying to get the positions filled. I mean, I do appreciate the 2 of you that agreed to serve after probably the application sitting there for a couple of years because I think it's been over 5 years since we've had an actual PI subcommittee meeting. So to that point, I think Helena and I were really wanting to get you all together and just have a conversation of maybe what's kind of stewing in the industry and what can the department do to help to work on some of those things together as a group. And that's really all I have today to provide to the committee. If there's anything that any of you need help with or recommendations on our website, getting information out to certain associations, please let us know and we'd be happy to help with that.
Great, thank you. I've been trying. I've been trying, I promise. All right. Did anybody have, with regards to that update, did anybody have any questions for Susie before we move on to the next one?
I guess, so the last time this committee met was 5 years ago.
2019, and no,
Wow,
this time, 2019, I want to say.
really?
Yeah.
Wow, was it for something similar? Or,
It might have been.
Yeah, I know.
The last case that we had that went to the subcommittee, but I don't know if that was the very last one that we
That
had.
I think it was the last one.
I think that was my first one.
And we
First or
had,
second.
and we had discussed CE hours too. We had
Mhm.
recently had some rule changes related to continuing education that was updated in our rules that long ago.
wow,
So,
okay,
yeah.
okay, interesting.
Mhm. Been a long time coming, but I'm glad we're here, so, yeah, thank you both as well from me too. So, well then, with that, the round table, there's just a few items listed here for discussion. I personally had asked for, I guess the continuing education and the training opportunities was something that has been something I've really been interested in from the PI perspective as a licensee, in that there's not a lot that the department offers. You know, we have one true association that kind of involves private investigators, and personally, I am not even a member of that one myself, and I'm always interested in trying to find other means for us to receive our continuing education due to the requirements that we have to fulfill as licensees. And so that's why I wanted to bring that up, and I hope I'm making sense with presenting it, because I don't know if I am. So that was the reason behind that. So between the 3 of us, or if you guys have any thoughts or suggestions with regards to that, that's why it's on the agenda.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think all your concerns are concerns that I share. I mean, I'm not a member of the PI Association, which in my experience was mainly beneficial for getting those CEs in. But I'm also, I've found myself presenting CECs for attorneys. And that structure and just those, I know the board pushes those and does a really good job, but they're so easy to interact with. And, getting those CECs from the attorney's perspective is something you have to do, but it's really well structured and not necessarily it's just, I think, part of the culture of an attorney governed by, the board. And I guess I long for something like that, that feels like it's, kind of a buffet of things that you can get to, and you're not forced to be a member of an association that, nothing disparaging, just, I don't see it as the benefit. It's just a place to get Cs, and I'm not super keen on the quality, if I could say that, with some, discretion. So, I'm all for trying to figure out how to make that more obtainable in a more varied format, I guess.
I'm part of the Owali Association, if that's what you guys are referring to, and I would agree. It's not super helpful. They have, 3 continuing education seminars a year, but I would like to see other opportunities because, the quality isn't always the best, and I would like, it's a PI in our standards should be higher than what is offered. And so I would like to see just more continuing educations like through DPSST that is standardized for everyone, just to make sure that everyone's on the same page at all the time.
I think even with what we reviewed today, kind of piggybacks on what you just said too, Cassandra, in the sense that we, I guess even between the 3 of us, we want to hold our industry at its highest level. And with that, I mean, what we just reviewed, I mean, we want to make sure that we're getting the quality type of CE that we think our industry deserves too at the same time.
Yeah,
Right.
I think.
I've been to a few of the continuing education seminars through the association, and there's just a lot of conflicting information out there, and not everyone operates the same, and that standard has been kind of diminishing a little bit that I've witnessed throughout the industry. And we need to get something where, we're all on the same page and hold ourselves to a higher standard.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's also a lot of strata in who is licensed as a private investigator. We all do such varied things. I'm a CFE. I think you're a CFE. My work is generally, in a very different segment than a lot of other folks. A lot of folks do defense work as their primary source. It's such a varied strata of what we do and how we do it. And I found in the easiest place, Wally, to get those things, it's sort of a race to the bottom. It is just getting those CEs done so you can send them in and be done with it. It isn't a profession developing format. It'd be really neat if it was, that we had meat substance to what we're doing. So I probably just restated everything that everyone else just stated, but gosh darn it, I agree.
So I guess, I mean, as a committee, and I'll ask this of Susie too, is, what can we as a committee maybe do to move something like this forward? I mean, what kind of things can Cassandra and James and myself do to help get some continuing education out there for the variety? I mean, and I totally agree. We have a variety of, different investigators out there that do a variety of different work. So I would love to be able to touch on all of it in some fashion, because we can all learn from each other too. So,
well, as you were talking, I was thinking of a couple of things. One, thinking about our previous conversation that we had about the ethics portion of it. And we do have the resources here of someone that would be able to potentially put on something similar to the requirements that you guys need. But the other thing that was coming to my mind was, I'm not an expert, obviously, in your field, but hearing more specifically of, like you segmented out different types of investigators, and then finding out within those segments, what would you want to see or hear and how, and maybe from whom? We have our space here. We've got the Hall of Heroes. We could potentially host something here. We could potentially look at whether there'd be a cost associated to that, to the members that would be attending. We could definitely survey the industry as well to see if individuals would be interested in something like that. Hosting essentially kind of like a conference, but knowing what are you guys really looking for that's meaningful? Who do you know? How do we reach out to those individuals to potentially get people to assist with that? So I think all of it's really good ideas, and I think we can get to somewhere, but I would love to get more information from you all. And it doesn't necessarily have to be here at this public meeting, but you could start shooting me some emails of what specifically you're looking for, and we can start planning, like kind of hitting a timeline and a target to meet a certain time to put on something like that. And I mean, call me crazy, but it could be something that would be held annually if we wanted to do something like that.
Yeah, no, personally, I love that idea. And yeah, I would love to be able to get some ideas from our industry, partners, I guess you could say, are the other licensees that are out there, to see what type or, what specific training they're interested in too. I've been around for quite a while, so there's things that are just, like you had even brought up, James, as the training's usually redundant. So what's new and, fresh out there that people don't know about, that kind of thing, or just, yeah, I'm not sure, but I think maybe if there's a way of polling might be helpful, and that would help us also gauge where we want to focus, CE on too, because it's not just about the three of us.
I could definitely survey the industry, and
Okay.
maybe you guys could help with what that survey looks like. That would go out to the group, and we can throw that out there. We could throw it online, or we could send it through Gov Delivery, where it actually goes to all the investigators individually. Just kind of get some feedback from them.
It would be so cool to know, how many of us are full-time, how many of us have the credential that sits in a drawer, how many, what are we all doing and what segments are we working in? Because it's, anecdotal evidence that, just folks that I interact with, but it would be so cool to see what it is PIs do in our state.
That's great, because we don't survey that. We don't have the numbers for that. So,
Well, like you're Eastern Oregon, correct?
I'm over in Central Oregon and I do criminal defense investigations, so I'm very specific over here, so.
Exactly, but I mean, there's PIs in Eastern Oregon, and, we're such a large state with such a small industry that, yeah, it would be interesting to find out how we can help each one of us, so.
it sounds like we've got some work cut out for us, right?
Sorry. I mean, happy to help wherever I can.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Oh, yeah, I'll be reaching out.
Be happy now.
I mean, we've been having this discussion probably for more than 5 years about
I'm
this.
sure.
It's time.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I appreciate
To organize something.
the willingness.
Yeah, that's great.
I don't know how we're doing on time. My laptop like that.
Nice, almost noon.
Okay. There only one other thing that was on here was provisional internship. Is I had a couple of PIs reach out to me about creating some type of licensure, or the allowance of having an internship, similar to the provisional license, and being able to train individuals under that. That was the only other thing that came up. I don't know if that's been something that has been brought to either your attention, James or Cassandra. But I think I'd rather focus on the continuing ed and the training versus the other issue myself first.
Well,
I think it's,
it's interesting you bring that up because I was talking to Shemeketa about maybe what would a associate's degree focused on the educational requirements for PI look like? And is that something that's feasible? And then from that, can you, help those folks get attached to a PI to go through the provisional process and get those hours in that are needed? And there was some interest in that. And so it was just a talk about, the feasibility from a hosted educational format. And then, depending on those conversations, coming to you guys and seeing what that would look like if it was even a possibility. But I think a structured entrance into this career would be helpful on a few fronts. It'd set an educational standard that would hopefully bring in PIs that had a really good background, and then make sure that they were starting out on a foot with a standard, good foundational background. And so I wonder if that kind of fits and feeds into.
yeah,
I don't know. The conversations are still kind of ongoing, but I would have probably come and talked to you guys sooner than later about that.
Interesting.
mhm.
Can I just ask a follow-up question, Helena? When we're talking about that, were you envisioning like another layer of licensure for that? Or just
Not-
I understand.
I don't know if it was another layer of licensure, but not necessarily. I mean, I'm trying to remember the conversations that I had. I mean, I did an internship with PI a very long time ago. And I mean, that was way before even it was here, of course, but the allowance of maybe it would be in the licensure language when an individual were to apply that they did seek or did receive training under or the internship with a licensee, if that, moves towards the actual licensure, or it takes them, eliminates a step, or am I making any kind of sense? I'm trying to figure out how that would work. It more of it, I would think it would be more of an incentive from the licensure perspective. Been a while since I had those conversations, so I apologize.
No, it's fine. I just wanted to get a little more information to then have
Sure.
a conversation offline with Jennifer. Whether or not something like that is possible without, statutory language.
Exactly, that's, yeah.
All right. Well, it is 12:03 this time, and I think we scheduled it for 1 hour to do.
12:30.
Oh, 12:30.
Oh.
Okay. So did have a little bit more time if you wanted to expand on that, or we can do
Well,
some more digging and.
Yeah, why don't we do that? And like I said, I mean, from my standpoint, I would like to prioritize the CE and the training opportunities over that anyhow.
Okay.
If that's agreeable with Cassandra and James too.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty critical.
I agree. I would like to continue like with training opportunities and continuing education, and maybe later that can, go over to the internship or provisional licensing, but standardizing that.
Okay. Well, maybe I'll start kind of gathering what first the survey might look like. And if you've got some pointers on that, send them to me, or you can comment on maybe what I develop and we'll get that out to folks. As far as like the next meeting that we have, these aren't scheduled on a quarterly basis, such as the policy committee is, but we will need to have a second meeting to continue this conversation. We could do that, near this with the policy committee meeting, which would be, in February of next year, quarterly, or we could have one before it and I could just send out a group email. We can pick out a date. What do you all think on that?
I'm fine with it piggybacking on the policy committee. And I mean, I don't want to, probably overloaded with meetings as it is, so everybody here is, so I hate taking more time. Or if we wait until the one after, depending upon how the email goes for developing
That's
the
true.
poll, we can
Okay.
just have it be tentative.
Okay.
I don't know what James and Cassandra, how they
I'm
feel.
good with piggybacking or scheduling a separate meeting. You guys have talked about earlier that the last meeting was 5 years, so let's make sure that doesn't wait as long again.
Agreed. All right, so we'll close the meeting with just a to be determined.
Sure. I agree with that. Great. Well, thank you, Cassandra, for being online, and thank you, James, for being here, and it's nice to meet you both.
Sure.
Yes, thank you.
With that, we'll adjourn.